Let's bring you a little bit more now on our top story, the U-turn that Boots has made after initially resisting a campaign to lower the price of the morning after pill on the basis that it didn't want to, in their words, risk incentivising inappropriate use. Well, joining us now to discuss this from our Central London studios, the crisis management expert Kevin Craig and Caroline Farrow, a blogger at The Conservative Woman. Many thanks to both of you for being with us. Kevin, to you first. This was a PR disaster that needn't have got to this stage.
Totally agree. I don't know if somebody at Boots in the corporate communications office was at the Sherry during the week, but why they thought they could put a statement out as one of the most 10 trusted brands in this country, telling basically young women and those in need of emergency contraception that they Boots were not comfortable selling the product at a more affordable price like Tesco and Superdrugs had done. It just makes you wonder whether or not the US parent organisation was unduly influencing what was a very, very bad week for Boots as a trusted brand, which I think they've managed to save in time by the total U-turn and a very well-written, heartfelt corporate apology.
And yet, at the same time, Kevin, I mean, didn't Boots have a point? If we leave aside the question of whether or not they themselves were making a value judgment about ready availability of the morning after pill, I mean, they're right to identify the fact that there will be some people out there today watching this who think that the decision to cut the price of the morning after pill in half is the wrong decision for Boots to take. They were right to say that.
Well, they have a right to say it, and they have a right then to find that their business and reputation in the UK is at risk. If they hadn't done this U-turn last night, they would have had boycotts outside stores, there would have been massive consumer pushback, and I think, and we might hear differently in a second, I think that they have saved their bacon, because this is the United Kingdom, this is not the USA, and our values here and our liberal values on a woman's right to choose and contraception are different to the States.
Caroline Farrow, there was clearly pressure building on Boots the Chemist. Was it irresistible pressure, however?
I think it was, and I think it's really unfortunate actually that Boots haven't really done anything wrong, and yet they're the latest victim of this craze to sort of witch hunt people via Twitter. Now, there's a whole issue about whether or not it's worth, there's a case for pricing morality into products. So, we see this with tobacco and we see this with alcohol. People are being urged to drink responsibly, and, there's this huge tax on tobacco products. So, why is it when we accept that people need to drink responsibly, when you start talking about responsible sexual behaviour, suddenly there's a massive pushback and people say, no, we can't have moralising. But the fact is that emergency contraception is supposed to be just that. It's not designed for regular use, and there is a problem if a woman is resorting to it frequently because she can, because it's so easy to access. And
but Caroline, sorry to interrupt. The point of the campaign, as I understand it, is you can get the morning after pill free of charge from family planning or through your GP, but it is often very, very difficult for people to get those appointments at short notice, all of which means if you need to get the morning after pill and you have to use it within a certain time frame, there are a number of other options, one of those being the shops, and £30, particularly when you are on a low income, to pay for something that you should be able to obtain free of charge. I mean, it's a campaign with a degree of logic behind it.
Well, I think you also have to remember that when you are prescribing the morning after pill, you need to make sure, the pharmacist has to spend a little bit of time with the woman who's buying it to make sure that it's appropriate for her, that she hasn't got any contraindications to why she's using it. But also, I would contend that it's not actually that difficult to ring up your GP and get them to prescribe you the morning after pill over the phone even. Lots of GP surgeries do that. We have so many family planning clinic services. We have walk-in clinics. We even have A&E. It isn't that difficult, and it's Boots' right. It's any retailer's right to choose to price how they want to. This is a free market, and okay, you can argue this may have been a disaster for them. It may have done, but it's also, there's an element of entitlement here. There's people saying, I want to be able to buy it at this price and you must sell it to me at this price. Well, I'm sorry, that's not how the world works. You know, if you want to buy it at another price, then go to another retailer. You know, as you said, Tesco's and Superdrug. You know, nobody should be forcing somebody to sell something at a price with which they're uncomfortable about. And there is an issue about if a woman is taking the morning after pill very, very frequently, it's not good for her. The other thing to remember is that in 2011 there was a study done, and they made the morning after pill really free and very, very accessible to teen girls. And what happened was the teenage pregnancy rate was not impacted whatsoever, but what we did see was an explosion in teen sexually transmitted infections, STIs. So, you know, there is an argument actually that it does potentially encourage more riskier behaviour, and we don't want to see that.
Well, I think, Caroline, you are in danger here of showing yourself up as looking a little bit out of touch, because it was you, of course, that wrote that you supported the right of a government to be judgmental about young women who find themselves pregnant. And I think you talk about how easy it is to access advice and appointments from GP surgeries, but that is not the reality for thousands of people in this country at this time. And the job of a retailer, a trusted retailer like Boots, when it makes decisions and announcements at the highest level, is to show that it deserves that trust and it's in tune and it's aware of the lives that thousands of people are living in our country at this time. And your own background as a very well-known commentator on the Conservative right, you blog a lot about Catholicism, which is great, but you don't sound like you are very familiar with the lives of many of the young women that need to access emergency contraception and who are questioning themselves as to why are they paying 5 times the price that our counterparts, other people in the European Union are paying. And I think that organisations like Boots have to be very careful about not drifting towards a judgmental morality on their customers. We want Boots to sell us the right products at the right place in the right time. We want to feel that they care about our health and not just profits. And that their problem is, if they get things like this wrong again, people are going to look up their corporate chain, they're going to look at the parent company they're part of, and then they're going to start asking questions about how Boots is the largest contributor of profits to a business in the US where you can buy cigarettes in a chemist, which us Brits will probably not believe.
I just want to give Caroline a chance to respond there. Sorry, go ahead, Caroline.
Okay, well, firstly, I'm the mother of 5 children. I've got 4 girls. I was a young person myself once too. I haven't always been a practicing Catholic. You know, I have had, you know, an interesting,
But
varied
you think
and colourful...
government should be judgmental? You wrote that.
Well,
don't you?
no, I didn't. I can't remember. I've written an awful lot of things. But yeah, you know, there's nothing wrong with saying, okay, these are the right sort of decisions. There's nothing wrong with the government promoting a certain kind of healthy lifestyle. Our government does this all the time. It does it with food, it does it with alcohol, it does it with tobacco. Yet suddenly, why is it in terms of, you know, sexual behaviour, we're not allowed to say, hang on a minute, this is the way, if you want to optimise your sexual health, you know, this is the way to do it. And the way to do it is to be in a lifelong, faithful, stable, monogamous, committed relationship, not to be having perhaps unprotected or risky sex. You know, and that's not judgmental, that's just wise advice, you know, and we make value judgments on things all the time. And, you know, it's quite crazy to say you mustn't ever take a stance on anything. Clearly, we do not want young girls to be taking, or anybody to be exposing themselves to the risks that come with needing to take the morning after pill. And also remember, the morning after pill consists of rather large doses of a synthetic hormone. It's designed to stop your body from doing a process that it would otherwise naturally do. It kind
But it's a last resort. It's 4% of women who are sexually active in the reproductive age.
Yeah, that's
it's a last
right.
resort.
But it needs to. There needs to be some kind of, you know, well, not a barrier, but there needs to be some kind of incentive. The other thing I would say,
Caroline, I'm sorry. I just want to intervene here in the middle, just to show that I am still here. Kevin, I just want to put a point to you. Isn't it the case, though, that there are 2 separate sets of morality here? There is the morality on one hand, which says that this pill should be available at the cheapest price to whoever needs it, whoever wants it. There is another competing morality, which it appears Boots sided with. But because of the overwhelming pressure coming through social media, I mean, they went back on what they believed is ultimately the truth in all of this.
Well, they went back on what part of the organisation believed. Their chief pharmacist wrote on Thursday that their position wasn't changing. But I feel the hand here in this decision of the much more savvy UK managing director, who's somebody who's much more based in the real world, I would argue, than some of the American voices that talk around Boots. And they've just seen common sense. And you don't want, in the current political climate, you had Conservative MPs who we will all can all respect, like Anna Soubry, as well as loads of Labour MPs saying what is going on with one of our most trusted brands in the UK. And whether they went back on the decision, I think one should actually commend them for nipping in the bud what could have escalated in the UK to have been a serious brand reputation problem.
Caroline, just in terms of the availability of the morning after pill, as we mentioned earlier, it is freely available. It's just not perhaps as freely available as some people would like. Given that, I mean, given the fact that Tesco has dropped their price, that Superdrug has dropped their price, I mean, is it really that much of a shock that a group of campaigners and a group of female Labour MPs who clearly have something invested in this issue think that the Boots decision was wrong and are perfectly entitled to shout about it as long and as loud as they like?
Well, we're in a democracy, but I've got another issue here. We have to remember who drove this campaign. It was the British Pregnancy Advisory Service, the UK's largest abortion provider, were driving this campaign. Now, my question to them, if they are a provider of sexual health services, why aren't they opening up their clinics and giving it out free instead of attacking retailers? Now, actually, I think that BPAS have got a vested interest in getting people to think that sex is always going to be consequence-free, because they've talked about abortion as being a form of contraception. And of course, it makes sense, you know, if you get women to buy into the idea that they can have as much sex as they want with whomever they want, whenever they want, and there can never be any consequences, then of course that's going to keep people coming in and out of the abortion clinics. And you know what, 185,000 abortions every single year, that's a tragedy. We want to get people, you know, actually thinking about their sexual behaviour and thinking, hang on a minute, you know, am I really being fed a false dream here? Am I being fed a utopia? And actually, we don't want people taking emergency contraception on a regular basis because it's just not good for your health.
I'm really sorry. We could carry this discussion on for far, far longer. Kevin Craig, Caroline Farrow, many thanks for your views on this topic.